I had to name the most asked question that I get from my audience members, it's definitely the one that we're talking about today, the blood test one and the supplement one. What should I supplement with? What blood test should I get? So we're going to dive into this today. I'm going to give you everything you need to know in a very brief overview, and you're going to take it from there. I'm Sherry Alberts, and this is the Watering Mouth Podcast, and I'm going to teach you to eat to live, lose the weight, and love the process for good. Episode 8. Okay, let's talk about blood tests and supplementing today. I get this question so much, and I'm so excited to finally create a resource for you that you can use and refer to. Now, first, of course, I have to tell you, I'm not a medical professional by any means, so don't take what I'm saying as medical advice. Consult your doctor, your healthcare provider for things that have to do with your health. In the case of this podcast, but any podcast that I record in the future, any YouTube video I've ever done, consult your doctor. Okay, so these are some things that I've read and used myself over the past 8-9 years that I've been doing the Eat to Live diet. This is personal experience. I'm going to give you that today, as well as some guidelines that you can use that I have found on Dr. Furman's materials over the years as well. So let's jump into it. This question I get all the time is, we're going to talk about both these things. First of all, what supplements should I take? And for those who are a little bit in the know, what blood tests should I order for my doctor? Now let's talk about why we need to know these things. So number one, we need to know these things. First, we want to know where we are right now. I've talked about this before with this idea of, it's kind of like your health is kind of like your bank account, right? How much money do you have? What is your current health status? You can't know that. You can't know how much money you have unless you actually look at your bank account, right? And if you're spending willy-nilly all over the place, you have no idea where you're at. Same thing with our blood tests. And our blood tests are a really good resource for us to understand a little bit about how our body is doing right now. So, when I first started seeing my current doctor, I started seeing her about just over a year ago. And I knew that I liked her because all the blood tests she ordered when we first started working together. And so I'm going to give you a list of those today. Blood tests that I have ordered myself in the past. So when I started my Eat to Live journey, I did it for probably a year or two before I started to get any blood tests, but I'd recommend that folks do this on a yearly basis. Get some, good blood tests that kind of give you markers as far as where you are, so you can compare from year to year how things are going. Now, you definitely want to get this done in the very, very beginning. As soon as you even hear about the idea of getting blood tests, get this done, because it will give you that snapshot of where you are right now, and then you can see where you go after that. This relates to the supplement question, because when someone asks me what supplements I should take, my answer is I have no idea. I don't know what your blood looks like. I don't know what you might be deficient in, or what you might be getting too much of, or where you might be just in the right range. So that's why you want to order a blood test, so you can kind of see where you are and then supplement based on that. So you could never just ask somebody what supplements I should take. It needs to sort of be personalized just for you. So the first thing that you can do when you start this lifestyle, go see your primary care doctor. Ask for, and when you do this, and maybe you have like a yearly wellness check or whatever, a lot of the times that's included in your health insurance plan, especially, if you're in the US, right? So I'm only speaking for United States here, but if you have a standard health insurance plan, a 1-year rotation of this will be included, basically. So they'll do some blood tests, see where you're at, and it will all be included in your health insurance. Now, if it's been a while, maybe you don't do that yearly wellness visit, or maybe you just don't see the doctor often, or whatever that might be. I still recommend everyone do this just to kind of see where you're at. So wherever you're starting from, if you haven't done it in a while, if it's been over a year since you've had your blood tested, get it tested. Just go see your doctor, ask them if they can, set up an appointment just for this, so you can talk about which blood tests you want. They will give you the order, and then they will send you to one of the labs to get it done, typically LabCorp, Quest. You might have to fast. You're definitely going to have to fast if you do all the ones that I'm going to tell you about. beforehand, get those done, get your results, and then you have your baseline. Now, a lot of people don't like to do this kind of stuff because they don't want to know where they are, right? It can be like a little bit of nerve-wracking to see, is my cholesterol okay? Do I have enough iron? This kind of stuff, right? But this is all part of just being a healthy adult. Let's just, rip off the Band-Aid, find out where we are. It's like checking that bank account after a while. Let's just see where we are. Better to know where we are now so we can start to improve than find out in a few years that we were deficient or had too much of something for a long time, and then it created a lot of negative effects. All right. So here's what we're going to do. When we first start the Eat to Live lifestyle, get a blood test, or whenever, like even if you're not doing Eat to Live, you're not fully Nutritarian, that you should always kind of have a handle on this no matter how you eat or how you want to eat, right? So get your blood tested, find out where you are, and then do that every 6 months for a little while, like maybe a year or two, as you're getting things in the right range. Then go to every year after, say, that first year or two. Then do every year, just yearly checkup, and you can just keep an eye on that. Okay, so that's what I recommend there. Now, I want to talk about the basic concept of blood testing in general. Why do we do this? Because we don't want to be deficient in anything, right? And I think that's what people are normally scared of. They're afraid that they're not getting enough of something, because that's that like a scarcity lack mentality, right? But on the other hand, we want to be really, really careful that we're not getting too much of something. And this is the concept that people don't usually think about. But this is just as important as being deficient in something as having too much, right? So, these kind of multivitamins that you can buy at the store that have thousands and thousands of % of different things, not a good idea. We don't want to be having thousands and thousands % of stuff, because maybe the side effects of having this single vitamin supplement that's, thousands over what the recommended daily intake is, maybe the effects of that don't show up right now, but years and years down the line, how does that show up? That's why we want to be really careful. And we're not trying to be like scared. It's not a place of fear. It's just, we just want to be like judicious. We want to use these supplements and the things that we put into our body. We want to be judicious about that and make sure that we're doing it. We're not going overboard and we're not going underboard, if that's a word as well. Okay. So that's the first point I want to make. Make sure, start to adopt a mentality of, I just want to be in the right range, right? Like you don't want to be too high, you don't want to be low, you want to just try to get in the right range. So that's what we're going to be supplementing for. And we don't know what to supplement with if we haven't had our blood test done, right? Then we're just kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall and, hoping it's working or whatever. But so if we get our blood test, and if there's some reason why you can't get your blood tested, very soon, then start a sensible multivitamin and for sure some vitamin D, because most people, even no matter if you're a meat eater or not, or, if you've been a Nutritarian for a long time, most people are going to be deficient in vitamin D. I know I was when I first came to the lifestyle. We're going to talk more about the specifics of these vitamins and minerals supplements in just a moment here. So keeping in mind that it's important not to be deficient and not to have excess. Those are, they're equally something you want to watch out for. Now we're going to talk about which blood test should I order. And then after that, we'll talk about what supplements we want to be looking into. So I am creating a blog post on my website, and it's at thewateringmouth.com/blood. So you can just go there and you will be able to download all the resources I'm talking about. It's kind of like the show notes, but I'm going to actually give you a place to be able to download a couple of PDFs that I'm making for you, special just for this podcast episode, that I'm actually taking from the Eat to Live Academy. I've had this information in the Academy for a long time, but I'm going to be using this same stuff so that you can have it as a resource to download. So go to thewateringmouth.com/blood. You can get that, or you can check the show notes and there will be a link for that in there as well. Okay. So what test should I order? Now, when I'm giving you a list of what test to order, I'm getting this from my own personal experience. When I started ordering blood tests for myself on a regular basis to check my levels, I took them from Dr. Furman's website and from the member forum and member only information that he's given in the past. Like there's a NutriTalk, like a call that he did from a while back about him and Dr. Benson were talking about which blood test to order and things like that. So I've researched a bunch of this stuff, and this is what I've come up with. So there certainly could be some things I'm missing, but I'm taking this straight from Dr. Furman. So the blood test that I have ordered in the past, number one, you start off with a comprehensive metabolic panel. So that's going to give you, just as it sounds, right, comprehensive look at things. And along with that, you order a lipid panel, which is your cholesterol. Then you order the CBC with differential. Now that is, so I'm just looking at Wikipedia here while I tell you this, complete blood count. So it provides information about the cells in a person's blood. So it will tell you things about like anemia, iron deficiency, B12 deficiency, viral, bacterial, parasitic infections, etc. So when you kind of get that blood result just of how the blood count is doing, that will give you some information about things that might be going on. You also want to get your B12 tested as well as folate. You want to get your ferritin with iron, so that's going to tell you all about your iron levels. You might want to get your thyroid tested as well. That's something that my doctor ordered when I first started seeing her, and it can tell a lot about what's going on. Vitamin D, and you want to get the 25-hydroxy test. You want to get your zinc tested if possible, and you can also add on a fatty acid profile as well. So that's going to tell you how your omega-3s are doing. Now, I know from experience that some of these tests are not like included. I feel like I'm trying to remember. I think it was the zinc and for sure the fatty acid test are not just something that doctors are used to. So here, I just want to talk a little bit about going to see your doctor about this in the first place, because doctors are not used to their patients being like kind of on top of stuff, you know? So when you go and you're like, hey, I want to get all these blood tests, your doctor's probably going to look at you weird, especially if you have an older doctor who's been doing this for a long time and maybe doesn't really know much about Eat to Live or nutrition or anything like that. You might get a weird look, right? So just be aware of that, because the doctor that I had previously who ended up retiring, it looked at me like I had two heads when I first asked for blood tests, okay? And especially the certain tests that I asked for, because I told him I was a vegan and he didn't understand really what that meant. And so he had no idea what I could be deficient in. So I had to tell him what tests I wanted, okay? So just understand that it's likely your doctor is not going to really understand what's going on, and you will have to school them, and you might get some weird looks, but that's okay. So ask for these tests. Now, to be clear, the fatty acid analysis can be a little tough to get. You want to make sure you're getting the right one. And I don't know which one to tell you to get. I just know that my doctor understood which one when I asked her for it. But there is like a little box they can check that's a fatty acid test. So that's going to tell you how your omega-3s are doing, DHA, EPA, that kind of a thing. So but I do happen to know that Dr. Furman has this available on his website, a fatty acid analysis test. And I remember paying around like $100, $150 for this test when I got it done before. And you pay $130.95 at time of recording of this podcast on Dr. Furman's website as well. So that's just something that you can do at home, which is very convenient. So you order those blood tests, get those done, you get the results. Your doctor will probably call you back in to discuss them. You'll find out how your cholesterol is doing, how your iron is, how your folate levels are, B12, everything else that you need to know. It will give you a really good kind of profile of where you're at right now. Now, I want you to consider blood tests are just a snapshot, right? So whatever you see there, don't freak out, right? All this stuff can be fixed. All this stuff can be worked through, and you can start to supplement and start to change your diet a little bit to see where you are. And that's a really important point I want to make. This is about being aware. This is about learning what you need specifically and then taking steps to improve, all right? So if you see, for instance, that your cholesterol is a little high, or you see that your iron is a little low, or your vitamin D is quite low, or whatever that might be. Now, your doctor's going to help you find out how much of what to take. And Dr. Furman also has a vitamin advisor on his website as well. So I'm going to put links for all this stuff in the show notes. And in that blog post, I'm going to put up thewateringmouth.com/blood. So all of this is going to be in there. You can go to that vitamin advisor, find out where you are, especially like for your iron levels, especially are you a pregnant woman? Are you looking to get pregnant? That sort of a thing. And you can find out exactly how much you need to take to get yourself back up there, and what Dr. Furman recommends. This is another important point I want to make. What Dr. Furman recommends as far as where you should be in that level, because your primary care doctor, especially if they're not a nutritarian, will be giving you different recommendations as well on what is the best level for you to be at. And of course, you should be listening to your own doctor. But if you want to be more on the nutritarian side, Dr. Furman has recommendations as well. And you can decide which doctor you want to listen to, right? Of course, that's not my place to tell you who to listen to, but you can certainly check that out and get that information for yourself based on the links that I give you in the show notes, all right? I'm also going to link to a blog post that Dr. Furman has about why take a multivitamin. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this stuff, and you can go and read the rest of this from what's in the show notes here. I'm also going to give you in that blog post a little infographic that I saw on Dr. Furman's website about supplementing. So I'm just going to read off the ones that he has in this infographic, and then you can use this for reference, this infographic I'll give you. So, it says most multivitamins contain ingredients that can be harmful to your health. Check the label to see if your supplement is doing more harm than good. This is right on Dr. Furman's website. So do not take supplements that include vitamin E, can increase the risk of heart failure and all-cause mortality. Beta carotene can interfere with the absorption of other carotenoids and increase the chances of lung cancer, etc. Vitamin A can cause a loss of calcium in the urine, weaker bones, increased hip fracture, etc. And folic acid, synthetic compound made from petroleum. Folate is the actual natural form of it, which you would find in green vegetables and beans, but avoid folic acid as it's associated with increased risks of breast, prostate, and colorectal cancers, etc. Now, be careful if you are supplementing with these minerals. Selenium, which can help regulate metabolism, but too much is linked to diabetes, elevated cholesterol, prostate cancer, and cardiovascular disease. Be careful if it's got copper in it. Higher intake linked to increased cancer, Alzheimer's, etc. Iron, it's the same thing, and iron for women needs vary widely among women, and intake is best individualized according to ferritin levels. Pregnant women need sufficient iron for the baby, but levels too high or too low can increase risk of low birth rate, etc. So that's why, this is why this kind of sweet spot, you want to find that sweet spot for yourself personally. And then he goes on to say in this infographic to make sure your multivitamin contains these ingredients: vitamin B12, zinc, iodine, vitamin D, and K2. Okay, so those are some guidelines for you. All these are going to be available in the blog post that I'm giving you. And those are the ones that you want to, the blood tests that you want to take and the types of supplements you want to take. Now, this question comes up a lot. Well, I don't take Dr. Furman's multivitamin, but I do take this one that's over the counter and it has vitamin A in it. This is at your own risk, right? Dr. Furman's job is just to give you the information, and it's your job to decide what you want to put into your body. So if it's a budgetary issue, right? So for me personally, what do I take? So I take Dr. Furman's gentle prenatal vitamin, not because I'm looking to get pregnant again, but because it has added iron in it. So it's just like the women's multi, but it has extra iron. So I take that one because I've always been deficient in iron. I also take an extra iron supplement based on what my blood tests were, and I have just discontinued that for iron level reasons, right? Like the way my body is. I also take vitamin D, and I take a lot because after my twin pregnancy, I was very deficient in it. I was down to like a 23, and Dr. Furman wants us to be at least at a 30. So I started supplementing quite heavily, and I will get my blood tests again very soon to find out. And of course, I'll put those results up on YouTube like I always do. So I take a lot of vitamin D. I also take his DHA and EPA supplement. So I always take things that Dr. Furman has when possible. So his multivitamin, his DHA, EPA supplement. And as far as DHA and EPA goes, the omega-3 fatty acids, you can, and I've heard him say this before, you can take a supplement from fish oil, if it's a good high quality fish oil, and you'll kind of know, especially like the problem with fish oil is that typically, it's coming from fish, so there could be some mercury, heavy metal type stuff, but also because they tend to go rancid really quickly. And so you don't want to be taking a supplement that's just low quality. Maybe it's been sitting on the shelf for a long time and you wouldn't know unless you actually broke it open and smelled that pill. But what happens is a lot of the times you will get these fishy burps, and it's not a very pleasant thing, but it's actually because the supplement itself went rancid. The oil in there went rancid, and that's no good. So you want to make sure you have a really high quality one. And I know that Dr. Furman, they take great care to refrigerate the supplement. And when you get it and you bring it home, you refrigerate as well. I've never had a problem. Unless I've stored it improperly, then it will go rancid, but that's the way it's supposed to go, right? It is a natural product. So I prefer that supplement. It's a vegan supplement, and it comes from algae instead of coming from fish. But you can find other algae-based vegan supplements on the market today as well, or, just get Dr. Furman's. I do find that his supplements tend to be on the maybe expensive side, but I prefer to take his. I just trust him. I'm going to put some links for the ones, some affiliate links down below if you are interested in checking them out. But, feel free to make those calls based on what your budget is. As a matter, a couple other things that I take. So I take amla as well, which is it's Indian gooseberry, AMLA. It's a supplement that Dr. Greger talks about a lot as well, which is supposed to be good for cholesterol, and we shall see how that goes. I've been taking it for about 6 months. We'll see how that goes. And then I also take Dr. Furman's more kind of expensive, but I think very useful supplements as far as getting like turmeric and things like that, and mushroom extract. So he has Ultracell Biotech and Immune Biotech. So I take those. He has some other supplements as well for osteoporosis, for cholesterol. He has probiotics and all that, mood balance, calm, glucose, etc. So there's a lot of really, really great products. And personally, I take them because I just, I'm a Nutritarian, and I trust his judgment, and I trust his packaging and his sourcing of materials. So feel free to do what you like with your own budget. But I do want to talk a bit about budget, this idea of spending money on something like this, because it took me a long, long time to start to spend money on stuff like this. And I just think of it like I would rather spend the money on the supplements now and feeling good than waiting till I'm feeling poorly and, having to spend the money at that time, because having diabetes, having heart attacks, having cancer, these things are expensive, right? They really actually are. They really do affect your bottom line. And would you want to pay for those later and have a lot of pain and suffering? Or do you just take the supplements now and just eat the really good, as organic as possible, high nutrient foods? Do you prefer to do that now and have the budget cut there, but be putting wonderful things in your body, or deal with it later? Okay, so just consider that kind of a thing. That's something that I came to, but it certainly took me a while to get my mindset wrapped around that. And I always pose these podcast topics to my Eat to Live family membership folks first, so that I could answer some questions that they might have. So if you were considering joining the Eat to Live family, this is a great way where you can get really individualized support and get all your questions answered about this lifestyle. So let me get into some of the questions that the folks from the Eat to Live family had. And of course, that's my monthly group coaching membership. So this comes from Cass, and she's in the Eat to Live family, and she asks, when I recently had blood tests taken, I asked my doctor to test my fatty acids, among other things. She had no idea what I was talking about. She said my LDL and HDL, that she tested those, so assumed that's what I wanted. Do you know if that's correct? This is a great question. This is what I was talking about just a minute ago. Doctors just really don't know. They don't have nutrition information, and they don't have the training for it. So no, that's actually not correct, right? LDL, HDL, that refers to cholesterol. So that is the lipid profile that you would have gotten, which is a standard thing to get. But as I said, the fatty acid thing is different, and it is a separate test that you would be ordering, and they would have to maybe make a call or something to find out which box to check on that form to know which one that is. But yeah, not the same thing. So tell her to do her homework a little bit more. This question comes from Rebecca. She says, supplements for toddlers. Is it okay to give a toddler a multivitamin that includes vitamin A if she won't take the Pixie Vite? Or is it better to skip the multi and just do B12, DHA, EPA, vitamin D only? And then they have gummies, of course. What other recommended organic toddler multivitamins are there that don't have vitamin A, etc.? And she mentions an issue with her daughter, that she's tried crushing the Pixie Vites or getting the powder Pixie Vites, but the taste of the sweetener is too strong for her. I totally get it. My daughter has an issue with the vitamins as well. And I haven't actually, unfortunately, I haven't found a solution to this. And I'm not a doctor, so I'm not really sure what to advise. I wouldn't want to advise on this, but I would love to take comments. So if you have any thoughts about this, that you've found something that works for you that feels very Nutritarian, let us know in the comments on the blog post, thewateringmouth.com/blood, and we can talk about this and share information. Okay, great question. This question comes from Patrice, and she says, if I'm low in vitamin B12, do I need to take a supplement with the other B vitamins along with my sublingual B12 supplement? So my advice on this, Patrice, is always, if you're low in something, get the blood test, find out where you are, supplement for a while, right? So find a B12, you're doing your sublingual supplement. That's going to have lots and lots of percentage, thousands of percents probably for B12 to get that up. Bring that up, but keep testing, say, every 6 months to make sure. And if you need anything else, go ahead and talk to your doctor about that. And one of our Eat to Live family members named Butch mentions that Life Extension offers a lot of test options. So that might be something to look into, but I personally don't know anything about that company. All right, so I think I've answered all the other questions from the Eat to Live family members about the blood test within this podcast. So hopefully you got your question answered as well. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out on the comment section of that blog post I was talking about. And if you need any of the resources I was talking about, of course, find those on that blog post or in the show notes, and you can download some PDFs with all the helpful things that I was telling you about on this podcast. And as always, if you're looking to join the Eat to Live family and you're interested in getting some support, being in a group of hundreds of other people who are doing the same thing as you, who want to eat healthy, perhaps lose weight, and just have that camaraderie and that community support, look into joining the Eat to Live family with me. That's where I coach. It's a monthly group coaching membership, very affordable. I would love to help you get to your goals. So just check out thewateringmouth.com/family. We'd love to see you in there. Are you following me on social media yet? Make sure you do so you never miss a beat. Search for The Watering Mouth on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and join my free and totally private Facebook group. Just search for Eat to Live High Nutrient Lifestyle. We can't wait to see you there. Okay, that's it for now. See you soon. Bye.